Hi everyone, I'm Chi-Fei Fan. Imagine that a war broke out today between North and South Korea. Would that concern us here in Taiwan? Well, when China shot missiles over our heads in 2022, the very next day, the Taiwan stock market surged 200 points. So, maybe not. Now, according to the same reasoning, Taiwan is here and Australia is over there. So if a war broke out in the Taiwan Strait, would it concern the Australians? As a matter of fact, yes, it would. The clearest proof is AUKUS. So what is this AUKUS that everyone has been talking about? AUKUS stands for Australia, United Kingdom, United States Security Partnership. When you combine the abbreviations of the three countries' names, you get AUKUS. In September 2021, these three countries announced a security partnership to help Australia develop its own submarines by the end of 2040. Wait a second, Australia wants to develop its own submarines just like Taiwan? That's right. But unlike Taiwan, Australia's submarines will be nuclear powered. As of today, only 6 countries in the world possesses nuclear powered submarines, the 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council and India. Why only 6? Because nuclear submarines are very expensive and very difficult to build. You need to have nuclear technology and a lot of money before you can attempt it. Australia wants to become the 7th country in the world to have nuclear submarines. But although Australia has the money, it lacks the expertise. That's where the UK and US come in for technical support. So, why does Australia suddenly want nuclear submarines? How is its submarine programs related to the Taiwan Strait, which is so far away? We covered India in the last episode, so today we will discuss the second distant player in the Taiwan Strait game, Australia. In the Oceania region, Australia has always played the role of big brother, due to its obvious advantages and, more importantly, its lack of enemies. For the past 120 years, Australia's biggest battles, aside from Japan's bombing of Darwin in World War II, have been with invasive wild rabbits. Spoiler alert, the rabbits won. Sounds like Australia has no internal or external threats to worry about, so it can live happily ever after, right? But having no external threats doesn't mean they don't need national defense. Australia's population is only 26.6 million, just a bit more than Taiwan. With so few people, they can't even win a war against the rabbits, let alone defend such a vast country. That's why Australia needs to find a bigger big brother to be its ally. Originally, Australia's big brother was the UK, but early in the World War II, Japan severely defeated the UK, including the bombing of Darwin. This shocked the laid-back Australians because their big brother had failed. So it was time to find a new big brother, and that was the United States. Since the end of World War II, Australia has been America's most ride-or-die ally. Just how ride or die? First, like Japan and the Philippines, Australia has signed a military alliance agreement with the US, the AUKUS. If anyone messes with Australia or the US, the other will help fight back. Second, Australia is a member of the Five Eyes Alliance, which includes the United States, the UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia. The alliance currently operates a satellite intelligence and surveillance stations in the heart of Australia at Pine Gap. Third, Australia troops has been involved in almost every major conflict that the US has participated in since World War II, including the Korean War, the Vietnam War, Afghanistan, and Iraq.
澳洲传统中就跟英国、美国是一种，在传统上就是一种联盟，一直到现在，澳洲都很难想象说，如果它跟美国、英国这些不是站在一起的关系，澳洲会怎么样？ 所以澳洲非常重视他自己的利益，考量在国际的关系的次序上面是有一个规则做基础。那目前在一个民主系统的国际的规则上面下，对澳洲他们觉得它是最有利的。
Now, that is ride or die. So we know that Australia is America's steadfast ally. But what about the small island nations neighboring Australia? They don't have much money or land and very few people. So naturally, the US prefers to focus on the first and second island chains instead. But what if someone comes along with a bag of money asking these small countries if they want to be friends? Of course, they would say yes. And that someone is China. When China went through its reform and opening up period, its manufacturing industry grew at a breakneck pace, and they needed a lot of raw materials. Australia happens to be the king of raw materials, so it was a match made in heaven. China soon began importing iron ore, natural gas, and agricultural products from Australia and transformed itself into the world's factory. The two countries even signed a free trade agreement in 2015, making China Australia's largest trading partner. In 2023 alone, trade between China and Australia reached a staggering 326.9 billion AUD, accounting for 27% of Australia's total trade volume. The outlook was rosy as the two countries grew richer together. However, as China emerged as a new superpower, their rosy relationship began to change. With the United States absent, China seized the opportunity to buy its way into the Oceania region. 11 out of the 14 Oceania countries are now part of China's Belt and Road Initiative. At first, it was just about lending money for infrastructure projects. But before long, this shifted to military partnerships. Australia was very uncomfortable with this. Why is someone forming military partnerships right outside our doorstep? Then in 2022, a secret security agreement between China and the Solomon Islands near Australia was leaked to the public. The agreement would allow China to station PLA troops in the Solomon Islands. Alarm bells started to go off in Australia. What is China up to? Australia was extra worried because of China's expansion in the South China Sea. If China gained control over the South China Sea and the Pacific Island countries, it could block Pacific trade routes. With 48% of Australia's GDP in 2023 coming from international trade, any blockage of these routes would be disastrous. Australia also has PTSD. During World War II, after the Japanese forces occupied Papua New Guinea, they built an airfield in Rabaul and deployed bombers to attack Darwin. If China were to build military bases next to Australia, like the Japanese did, it could directly threaten the Australian mainland. How could Australia not be terrified? So, what's the answer for Australia? Hold on to Big Brother and hold on tight. First, because their big brother, the United States, advocates for free Indo-Pacific, where everyone can move around as they please. Australia echoes this sentiment by sending warships to patrol the Taiwan Strait and the East China Sea. And when Big Brother organizes military exercise in the South China Sea to support the Philippines, Australia is also there. Ride or die. Second, there is Quad. Following the United States, Australia has strengthened its bond with Japan and India. These four countries form the Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, or Quad. Australia actually took it a step further by signing the Japan-Australia Reciprocal Access Agreement with Japan. This allows both countries to send troops to each other's territories for a visit and joint training, working together to counter China. Third, the most important is AUKUS, which we mentioned in the beginning. In the past, Australia had no enemies nearby, so its defense forces only needed to be able to prevent attacks on its own soil. Currently, Australia has just 6 Collins-class diesel-electric submarines. This should be enough if it wants to protect its own territory. However, with China now asserting its presence everywhere, Australia can no longer only look after itself. it has to take broader measures. Australia's latest defense strategy has shifted from preventing others from attacking me to preventing others from harming my national interests. Previously, it was enough to keep the bad guys out of the house. Now they must prevent the bad guys from wandering around the neighborhood. Of course, this requires higher defense capabilities, including more powerful nuclear submarines that can travel longer distances. So joining AUKUS was a logical step. AUKUS was founded on two major pillars. The first pillar is collaboration among the three countries to build a new generation of nuclear-powered submarines by the end of 2030. Before these submarines are built, the U.S. plans to lend Australia its Virginia-class nuclear submarines for training. This way, Australia will be able to transition seamlessly to the new submarines when they are built and immediately have a modern, powerful, and combat-ready nuclear submarine fleet. The second pillar is collaboration among the three countries in AI, electronic warfare, and hypersonic missiles. This involves technological exchange and joint development, promoting the growth of each nation's defense industry and ensuring they maintain a technological edge in military capabilities. Australia joined AUKUS and Quad for the sake of safeguarding its national security. And one specific area of focus is Taiwan Strait. Current Australian Minister of Defense Richard Marles has said that nothing is more important than the Taiwan issue for Australia's national security, and that the consequences of a conflict in Taiwan would be grave for Australia, so it cannot just be a passive bystander. This is because the sea route from the South China Sea to the Taiwan Strait is Australia's lifeline, and keeping this route open is essential for protecting Australia's national interests. Marles also stated,
freedom of navigation, freedom of overflight is completely in Australia's interest.
By the way, I should also mention, Taiwan is Australia's 6th largest export market and 9th largest trading partner. So it's not just Australia's top 5 trading partners. If trade with any of these top 6 countries were to stop, it would have a significant impact on Australia's economy. In spite of all this, like so many other countries today, Australia's attitude towards defending Taiwan remains ambiguous. It has not committed to sending troops to assist Taiwan, and although Australia has a military alliance with the US, it has not guaranteed that it would stand with the US against China. I'm sure you are all very familiar with the attitude by now. No one wants to make definitive statements when dealing with China. However, when we ask the Australian public, we get a different story. According to a 2023 poll, if a conflict were to occur in the Taiwan Strait, 76% of Australians support imposing economic and diplomatic sanctions on China. 64% support sending weapons and military supplies to the Taiwanese government. 61% support using Australian Navy to help prevent a Chinese blockade of Taiwan, and 42% support sending Australian military personnel to Taiwan to help defend against a Chinese invasion. Honestly, I was very surprised to see how high these numbers were. I did not expect the Australian people to support Taiwan so strongly. It's very touching. But at the end of the day, the Australian government's approach to the Taiwan Strait and China is still different from the other distant player, India's. India will occasionally release pro-Taiwan news to poke and prod China a bit. But Australia is more cautious. Unlike India, Australia is geographically distant from China and has no direct border conflicts or regional dominance issues. So, for Australia, the primary concern in a Taiwan Strait conflict is the impact on trade. That's why Australia rarely makes solo statements about the Taiwan Strait, opting instead to issue joint statements with the US and other allies to avoid provoking China. Still, I think Australia does care about Taiwan. For one, it's a staunch ally of the United States. Also, the stability in the Taiwan Strait directly affects Australia's international trade. The best outcome for Australia is to prevent a conflict from occurring here. And AUKUS demonstrates that Australia is willing to spend heavily to do so and be a part of efforts to maintain peace in the Indo-Pacific region. If you find this video helpful, please leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. If you are in a hurry, you can always give us a like. Most importantly, please help share this video and get the word out there. More information can be found in the video description. 2027 is coming. Let's be vigilant together. See you next time. This video is in collaboration with TaiwanPlus.